Hello, everyone. Hiya. So, my name's Tarek, merchant, and yeah, I'll be chatting to you for the next hour. I'm absolutely delighted that you've chosen to spend the next hour with me today. Thanks so much for tuning in. I can see the numbers are gradually rising of people tuning in. So, just a couple of little basic things before we start. I know everyone's going to be massively more Zoom savvy than I am, but just a reminder that we've got a chat box down at the bottom, and if you want to use that just to say hi to me or whatever, to introduce yourself, say who you are, where you're from, anything like that, that's really cool. Obviously, I might not get to see and read all of them. Oh, hi, there's one from Carrie Louise there. Hi. Or, you know, so if it's anything kind of like that, or you want to compliment or criticize my pot plant, that's chat. And then also the Q&A is where you should put, oh, from Ireland, Danielle Power from Ireland, hiya. Yeah, the Q&A is where you should put any questions you might have for me. Hey, from Alison as well. Hi, yeah, good to see you too. And from London, and my plants are cool, fantastic. Thank you, Ellie. That's brilliant. I'm glad my plants are getting and from Leeds, fantastic. Right, I'm gonna let those come in, and yeah, just a reminder, therefore, that use the Q&A to ask me any questions you might have as it goes along, and I'll try and keep an eye on that. And then in the latter half of the hour, I'll try and get through as many of those questions as I possibly can. Just to begin, I just wanted to say what my relationship to British Youth Music Theatre is. So I'm an MD and composer, and I've worked for BYMT about sort of 6 or 7 times, I suppose. The last time actually was about 3 years ago. So I may not know as many of the participants tuning in today as I might have done maybe, but welcome and hello to anyone I don't know. And yeah, I suppose my very first job with BYMT, I actually did the MD placement. You know, I think they might still run this scheme, but you could actually participate as in a kind of training position. And my first job was I did a training placement with them as a musical director, and that was in Manchester. And then after that, I did, I think you might call them courses. They were skills courses or studios. They've gone through different names at different times. And I did one at Fettes College in Edinburgh, which was all about Charlie Chaplin. And then I've done a few of the sort of composed and MD'd a few of their sort of main productions as well. So first off, one called The Salsa Sisters, which was using loads of Cuban music and Cuban salsa music. And that was done at the Plymouth Barbican with the director Stephen Dexter, who many of you may have worked with. I think he's still done a few things last season and had some things lined up for this year. And then after that, I went on to do a piece called Ali and Nino, which was based on a novel about a love story set in Azerbaijan and Georgia. And that performed at South Hill Park in Bracknell, and was directed by Joe Douglas. And most recently, I worked twice on Gulliver's Travels, which was done at the Lyric in Belfast with the composer Duke Special. So I worked with Duke Special and the director Des Kennedy, and did two productions of that. So that's sort of my relationship to British Youth Music Theatre. Yeah, I'll in a short while. You're going to get so bored of my voice, aren't you? In a short while, I'm going to give a little bit more context about my work and perhaps a little bit of insight into how I got to do the kind of thing that I do and what my career experience has been so far. But I kind of thought this was actually a suggestion from Alison, which I thought was an excellent one, that maybe we might all be feeling a little bit bereft not to be in a rehearsal room at the moment. I know I am, and I kind of thought maybe it's possible that people tuning in might also be missing being together in a rehearsal room. So I thought this is a little bit of an experiment, because I've not done this on Zoom before, so I hope this works. Someone will have to wave their hand at me if it doesn't. But I thought I might run a little vocal warm-up, and that we could all, in our own respective screens, you know, at home, providing you're not going to, you know, spit on anyone, that we can all join in our vocal warm-up from afar, something I haven't been able to do in person for a few months now. So I'd love it if you join in with me. So I'm going to talk us through a little vocal warm-up just for about 10-15 minutes. And then hopefully that will just sort of be a reminder of, oh yeah, this is what it's like to sing. And then we can go into chatting a bit more. So to start with, I'm going to do a little bit of blowing through the lips. So like this, and we're going to do a little twiddle, a bigger twiddle, and a bigger twiddle still. So we'll go like this. face buzz. If this is too uncomfortable, you can always hum. Just do a couple more. Two more. And the last one. Lovely, that was great. And then we'll do E-A-I-O-U on a scale. So we're just going to do our vowels. So we're going to go E-A-I-O-U, 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 then we'll come back down. E-A-I-O-U, 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 E-A-I-O-U. Lovely. And then we'll do a little bit of sirening. So we're just going to take the NG sound at the end of the word sing. So if everyone says the word sing, sing, and we just want to elongate that last sound, sing, and we're just going to hold that note, that sound rather, and we're just going to use it very, very quietly to ourselves to go up and down our range. I don't even know if you'll hear this on Zoom, because I think it's a strange sound that doesn't get picked up by mics very well, but it'll go something like this. And I have no idea if you can hear that or not, but it sounds, oh, you can hear that. Thank you, Ellie. Brilliant. Excellent. Can be heard. So I always try and describe it like imagining rubbing a chihuahua's nose down a window pane. So if you imagine you've got a window pane in front of you, maybe like a giant French window, and you're going to just very quietly, it's a bit cruel, but we won't tell anyone. We're going to rub that chihuahua's nose down the window pane. So we'll just go. So if everyone gets their imaginary chihuahua, imagine your glass pane in front of you, and we're going to go like this. Loop it at the top, come back down. Lovely. And the trick is on the way down, not to suddenly let it drop. You're trying to control it really carefully. So we'll do that one more time. Take your chihuahua. Control, control. Lovely. And then one last time, and this time we're going to really rub the chihuahua's nose several times at the top. Here we go. Fantastic. Lovely. Let's do this one now. So we're going to go E-ya-ha-ha. So it's a bright smiley sound, E, and then a sort of belly laugh. E-ya-ha-ha. So we'll go like this. E-ya-ha-ha. 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 E-ya-ha. Two more. E-ya. One more. E-ya-ha-ha. Back down. E-ya-ha-ha. 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 How low can you go? Are you still with me? Let's see if you can hold that one. Fantastic, great, lovely. I'm missing seeing people and being in the room with everyone, but thank you for joining in with me. I see some people are joining as we go, so if everyone's kind of, what on earth is going on? What are we doing? I thought I was tuning into a talk. We're just doing a little vocal warm-up first as a way of just reminding ourselves what it's like to sing. The next thing we're going to do is we'll do 4 sh, like shooing a cat, sh, 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 and then 4 v, like revving a motorbike. V, 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 v. I quite like to do the hand motions too because it's kind of fun. So if you want to do the dance at home as well, it's shh, 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 and we'll go up in a scale. So we'll go shh, 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 last one. Fabulous, lovely. Let's do a little bit of articulation stuff. So this next one is a sort of tongue gym. So we're going to do circulations of the tongue with the mouth closed. Now this can sometimes be a little bit sore on the tongue root because it releases a bit of tension in the tongue root. So if it gets too much or too unpleasant, do just stop. Obviously I'm not watching, so it's totally cool. You can stop and start as you like. But normally that discomfort or pain is just the tongue root loosening, and when you stop the exercise, that discomfort should subside. So persevere with it if you can. If it gets too uncomfortable, just stop. But what we're going to do is, keeping the mouth closed, we're going to slowly do 8 cycles of the tongue one way, then 8 cycles the other, and then I'll halve it and do 4, 4, and then I'll halve it and I'll do 2, 2, and then we'll alternate 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. I'll talk us through it. So mouth closed, tongue circulation. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Other way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right, other way 4. 1, 2, 3. Other way 4. Other way 2. 1. Other way 2. Alternating 1, 1. And when you're done, let it all hang out, Gorman's face. Ugh, you just want to kind of release it all down. I've just thought, if this goes up on YouTube, that's going to be really embarrassing, isn't it? There's going to be like a video of me doing like ridiculous tongue stuff. So let's try and not think about that. And let's just release the jaw, release everything out, and then use the palms, the heels of the hands up into the scalp. You can do the temples, yeah, and then up into the top of the head. In fact, if you go back to the temples and you clench your teeth, you'll be able to feel some muscles bunch there. You can give those a little bit of a massage. They're jaw muscles connecting. Yep, top of the scalp and the back of the neck. You can massage the back of the neck and give a little massage to the earlobes. And then using your thumb, you can just give a little massage to the tongue root under the chin. There's a sort of soft bit under the chin. That's your tongue root. And just do that gently. And also very gently, you can just give a little bit of a massage to your larynx, which is the sort of structure that you'll feel in your neck and throat there. Just a very gentle massage there. Just be nice to yourself. And then we can stick out our tongues. And then we want to put the tip of our tongue behind our bottom teeth and bellow out the middle. And go between those two positions as quick as you can. Again, just because it looks kind of silly and makes a horrible sound. And then if you put your finger there, and you're going to try and kiss your finger, but you're not allowed to move your finger closer to your face or your face closer to your finger. Honestly, there's so many awful memes coming out of this. I can't even begin to imagine, but let's just go with that. Cool, then we want to give a big yawn and a big stretch. And I want to do a bit of lightsaber. So we're going to make voice fricative, zzz, zzz, or v, and we can imagine that we're in Star Wars. Exploring high and low. And let's make the biggest face we possibly can. And a tiny weeny screwed up face. And a huge face. A tiny weeny screwed up face. And let's shake it all out. Good. And then let's give a little bit of a wake up to the ribs. Let's give that a bit of a stretch and a bit of a slap on both sides. Great. And then you can give yourself a bit of a hug. Drop your shoulders. And just try and use your breath to expand your back ribs. So just a couple of breaths there. you should hopefully feel the back start to expand and open up. Fantastic. And then, having done all that sort of articulation stuff, we'll do a little, these will all be so familiar, sort of nostalgic, I'm sure, but there's this one where we're going up a scale and we add another number each time. So we're going to go 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1. You get the idea. And at the end of that, when we've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, we'll start at the top and come down. So that will go 8, 8, 7, 8, 8, 7, 6, 7, 8. Again, I'll talk us through it. Here we go. Good luck. 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 8, 8, 7, 8, 8, 7, 6, 7, 8, 8, 7, 6, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. How did you do? Was that okay? Not bad? Let's try it one more time. This is the next step. You're going to take out all the 3s. So every time we get to a 3, love those. Oh, brilliant. Cheers, Leon. Great. So we're going to do that again. This time we're going to miss out all the 3s. So we'll do the same scale, but it'll go 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 2, 1, 1, 2, 4, 2, 1, and the same coming down. So I'll do it a little bit slower, a little bit steadier, but miss out all the 3s. Here we go. 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 2, 1, 1, 2, 4, 2, 1, 1, 2, 4, 5, 4, 2, 1, 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 5, 4, 2, 1, 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 6, 5, 4, 2, 1, 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 2, 1, 8, 8, 7, 8, 8, 7, 6, 7, 8, 8, 7, 6, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 2, 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Not bad. I'm sure that was pretty good. I hope you did well and felt that you kept up. Brill, we'll do a little bit of, just a couple more things. We'll do a little bit of twang. So if everyone goes, nya, 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 imagine you're a horrible, cliche stereotype of a taunting kid in a playground. Nya, 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 nya. And then we're going to do that on a scale. So we're going to start, we're just going to use that sound. Nya, and we're going to make it really bright, really nasty, really unpleasant. We're not trying to make a nice sound. Nya, 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 like that. It could be as horrible as you like. No one's watching. So, nya, nya. Last one. Lovely. Then let's do this one's Bella Signora. Lots of people might know this. My version goes Bella Signora. And feel free to harmonise. We just want a nice, warm, open sound. If you're in a room on your own, you could stand and be expansive and reach out. Just sort of, it's just a nice, warm sound filling the space. So we get Bella Signora. Signora, la Signora, la Signora. I'm gonna stop singing. We keep going. Last one. And we'll finish off with Many Men to the William Tell Overture, which is what I always do at the end of a vocal warm-up. So everyone know the William Tell Overture? It's the one that goes... Except we're going to do it to many men, many men, many men, 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 many men, many men, many men, men, men. And the middle bit goes... Many men, many men, many men, 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 many men, many men, many men, 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 and finally, many, 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 many men, and then we're back to the top. Many men, many men, many men, men, men. From Alison takes you back. I know. I've still got the same warm-ups 10 years later, and I haven't got any new ones. So here we go. Everyone join in with Many Men. Here we go. Many men, 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 fabulous. Thank you so much for joining in with me on a vocal warm-up. That's been such a treat for me because as due to the current climate and the current hiatus, I haven't been able to do a vocal warm-up in a rehearsal room for several months. So that's really, really lovely. I hope that anyone who's missing singing or missing being in a rehearsal room at the moment hopefully enjoyed just getting your voices going again. That is exactly the same vocal warm-up that I use with professional companies as well. Obviously, a couple of other exercises that perhaps for time constraints I didn't include, but essentially taking yourself through gentle methods of warming up. We do that warm up at choir. Ah, brilliant. Okay, great. So you've got some experience there. Fab. Yeah, taking ourselves through some initial gentle exercises, including that sirening technique, gentle humming, buzzing sounds that are going to just gently warm up the voice, and then gradually building that up to articulation work, getting the ribs going, getting the rest of the face buzzing, releasing the jaw and the muscles of the face, and then taking that into other sounds as well, such as the twang, nya, 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 that we did, and gradually extending the range with those last couple of exercises. So hopefully that was of some interest or use. Right, let me take a sip of water. I'm talking quite, I talk really, really fast. I think I don't realise it till I do things like this, but let me, just before we go into Q&A, why don't I just give a little bit of context about the work that I do and how I've sort of got to do it. So I always wanted to be an actor, and I, even from a young age, that was the thing I really wanted to do. I really wanted to perform. And my parents said to me when it was time to, when I wanted to apply to drama school, they said that they thought it was a sort of precarious profession and that I should get a more formal qualification. And so they were possibly right, but I decided to do music at university, which in a way perhaps wasn't quite as far removed from the performance as they had hoped. I think they thought I might do something slightly more academic, but I decided I wanted to do music. So I went to York University and I studied music for 3 years. And got a degree there. And at the end of that, I think maybe secretly my parents hoped that I wouldn't want to still perform and I would just want to go and use my music degree. But actually I still did want to go to drama school. So I made a load of applications to drama schools. I did a handful at first off. So I think I applied to sort of Guildhall, RADA, Lambda, maybe one or two others the first year. And I didn't get in to any of the courses that first year. So I took a year out. I went and worked at a library, and I saved money, and I did absolutely every course, summer school, evening course I could possibly afford that I could look up and do. Saturday morning courses at RADA. I did an evening course at Central School of Drama in the, twice a week in the evenings. I went any theatre company that was running a workshop or an open access activity connected with a production, I went and participated in. So basically just trying to do everything I could. I downloaded the reading lists for drama schools, and I read through all the books myself in my own time and carried out the exercises myself just to try and get a little bit more fighting fit. But I got to the point where when I was reapplying to drama schools, that actually my music degree and saying how much I'd been involved in music, and I'd always composed at home and for pleasure and for fun, I had to sort of play those down. So I'm a first study pianist, but I also play flute, violin and accordion. And so music had always been a massive part of what I was doing. But it got to the point where drama schools got a bit nervous, I think, because they sort of thought, or that was the impression I got, that they were kind of saying, oh, but you want to be an actor, but you've got all this music on your CV. And then someone pointed out to me that there was a course at Bruford College in Sidcup, which was as an actor-musician course. It still runs. At the time, it was the only actor-musician course. So a drama training for actors who play musical instruments. Now there are actually several. It's sort of a proliferation of courses. So I know Mountview runs an actor-musician course as well. So does Guildford School of Acting. There might even be another, I'm not sure. And I think there's an MA at Rose Bruford as well now. So that's sort of developed over the last few years, that there are many more courses doing it. But at the time, it was the only actor training for actors who play musical instruments. And it just suddenly felt like, oh, actually, that's exactly the right fit for me, because I still want to train, but I don't have to pretend or deny that I have an instrumental capacity and that I love music and I love playing. So I went and studied there for another 3 years. So I got another undergraduate degree. So I'm totally broke. So I did 2 lots of student loan. Should have been a doctor or something. But by that point, 7 years training, I could have been a doctor. Then so I studied for 3 years, but I still felt I wanted to act. And then at the end of our 3 years, we did a production of Into the Woods, fantastic, absolutely fantastic musical, and a very experienced musical director and orchestrator called Sarah Travis came and worked with us. She does a lot of work, she still works a lot, and she did a very famous production of Sweeney Todd with actor musicians. So just to clarify, sorry, for anyone who's not familiar with the actor musician format, although I suspect many of you are, it's literally there's a strand of presenting musicals on stage where, rather than having a separate cast and a pit band, the musical performance is integrated with the performance on stage. So the same cast who are performing the roles also play the band parts, and it's sort of woven into the action, or becomes another lens on which one views the action on stage. And that's always been a bit of a passion of mine. So, and Sarah Travis, who came and worked with us on Into the Woods, that's also an area of experience of hers. She worked on this very famous Sweeney Todd, which worked in that way with actor musicians that performed in the West End and then went to Broadway, with Patti LuPone as Mrs. Lovett. And I got to work with her as an assistant and do some orchestrating under her, and she sort of very much became a mentor for me. And then just as I was graduating, she was working on a production of Sunset Boulevard. Patti LuPone is my icon, right? Yeah, I hear you. Then, yeah, just as I was graduating, Sarah was going on to work on a production of Sunset Boulevard with actor musicians, and she asked me if I might like to be her assistant musical director on it. And I was just graduating, and I actually had to ask the course if they would release me early to go and do the performance, and they said they would assess me on the production of Sunset Boulevard as the final component of my degree at Rose Bruford. And so I got this amazing opportunity to work with her on my first professional production, and that was at the Watermill Theatre in Newbury, where they do a lot of actor musician work. And it was a very successful production of Sunset Boulevard that Andrew Lloyd Webber got behind, and it transferred into the West End. So we performed at, well, it was the Comedy Theatre, although it's now become the Pinter Theatre just off Haymarket in the West End. And we performed there for about 6 months. And it was nominated for a few Olivier Awards, which was fantastic. So it just sort of set the ball rolling. And really after that, it kind of set me on a path where that was now a niche that I'd found. I sort of felt like a square peg in a square hole. I ended up doing more and more assistant musical directing work, and then off the back of that, doing my own musical direction, and then doing more composing and the work with British Youth Music Theatre. And so just to give a quick insight as to what that's led to in the interim, in the last sort of 4 or 5 years, I've done a few seasons at the Royal Shakespeare Company in Stratford. So I MD'd, they did a new musical based on the life of Joan Littlewood 2 summers ago, and I MD'd that. And they did a big production of A Midsummer Night's Dream that toured the country with amateur actors joining the professional company in each city that we toured to, and I MD'd that. I've written a few other Christmas shows for the Watermill Theatre, where I'm now actually an associate artist as well. So I've written 2 or 3 Christmas shows for them. So I wrote, this last Christmas we did The Prince and the Pauper, which I wrote the music for. But prior to that, we did a production of The Borrowers, and we did Sleeping Beauty. I've written a little bit of music for Radio 4, for some plays for Radio 4. And I also, last couple of years, done some work for the National Theatre. So they did a big event called, it was sort of public acts. It was a version of Shakespeare's production Pericles, where we used, again, a company of professional actors and 200 community performers from across London, including musicians and dancers and acrobats and beatboxers and everything like that. So we worked together on that and presented that on the Olivier stage at the National. And then last summer I did a family musical there called Mr. Gum and the Dancing Bear, that was based on a set of sort of children's books, which was a kind of new musical for young audiences. So sometimes I'm working as a composer, sometimes I'm working as a musical director with a composer, sometimes I'm involved in the performance of the production, and I'll perform it each night and conduct the band and lead the band. Just over Christmas this year, I did Girl from the North Country, which is the Bob Dylan musical, which performed at the Garrick in the West End, so I was working there. This Christmas before, I did Don Quixote oh no, sorry, it was at the Gielgud, and Don Quixote was at the Garrick, which was a Royal Shakespeare Company production with Rufus Hound the year before. So I also do a mixture of musicals. I was meant to be working this summer on a new musical version of 101 Dalmatians at Regent's Park Open Air Theatre, and then working on a Philip Pullman production, one of the new stage adaptation of La Belle Sauvage, the new Philip Pullman like sort of His Dark Materials. It's the Book of Dust trilogy that was going to be at the Bridge Theatre near London Bridge. So I work all over the country, or have done, sometimes composing, sometimes MDing, sometimes mounting the production and then leaving it to run, sometimes getting the chance to conduct the band in performance every night. So one last thing I'll say, I also had a brilliant adventure just before COVID hit, which was I got to fly out to New Zealand, to Wellington, and work with Brett Mackenzie, who's one of the two Flight of the Conchords, sort of their kind of comedy music double act. And he'd written a new musical, and it was being done in a scratch performance as part of the Wellington International Festival out in New Zealand. So just before all international travel became impossible and I had to hole up in my little flat here in South London, I did get a lovely adventure to the other side of the world in the sun. So that was kind of cool. Anyway, that's probably enough talk. I hope that's been an interesting introduction. There's about half an hour left, so I thought maybe I should crack on and do as much answering of questions as I can. So if you have any questions, bung them in the Q&A, and I'll just try and work through as quick as I can. If I don't get through everything in time, I've been advised that you can tweet British Youth Music Theatre or send them an email, and they can forward any questions on to me that way if you don't manage to get your question answered today. So if for any reason I accidentally miss you or skip you or run out of time, then please get in touch with BYMT and they can field any further questions. But without further ado, let's work through the questions. So Annie Napier: I want to train as an actor, but I'm also interested in directing, composing and playwriting. What are your tips for transitioning later in a career to different aspects of the theatrical field when you don't have formal training in those new jobs? What a great question. That's a really good question. I think for me, it's tricky, because I think some advice people would give would be to sort of really specialize, that actually sometimes it can be a bit tricky in the industry. Once you do one thing, that's sort of how people want to re-employ you. And it's quite hard sometimes to straddle different camps. So when you get people who are actors who are also directors, or, I've done a little bit of acting performance or acting musician performance, but mainly MDing and then a bit of, composing alongside. It can be tricky once you start doing one thing to remind people that you can do the other. So I suppose I've been quite fortunate in that I could do a lot of those things slightly alongside each other, do one job that was a bit like that, and then the next job used a slightly different skill set. I think if I'd done, say, 10 years as an MD and then I wanted to be a playwright, I suspect that making that transition might be a little bit harder. So I suspect one of my tips might be to try and keep the other things you might turn your hands to ticking alongside, so that you don't just focus on one thing and then the other. But I do think that in a way, once you're working with people and collaborating with people, people get to see you, get to know you, get to hopefully like working with you. They might be more open to those conversations to see what other skills you have and how else they could work with you. So in a way, sometimes just setting the ball rolling and getting something started can be the best course of action, because once you're actually in that world and in that field, and you've got contacts and connections, and you're enjoying working with people, then it, for example, they might need someone who can not only have directed it but will compose, or they might want to draw on your other skill sets alongside. So my two tips for that would be: keep things ticking, don't just do one thing and then the other, try and keep things floating alongside each other. And I think understand alongside that, the flip side of that is that not everything might happen at once, and that if you just sort of set the ball rolling, you might be able to engage in those conversations and feel those opportunities in those other fields. I hope that's okay. Brilliant. Okay, what are your top tips for composing? Oh, that's a good one. Okay, Neve Gallagher. I think how about I think one thing would be for it's quite slightly different composing for theatre. So I have composed musicals and family shows, and I've also composed incidental music for plays, and all of those composing jobs are slightly different. So I think one thing would be to totally immerse yourself in whatever it is you're being asked to do. So I'm thinking for BYMT, I had to write this musical that was based on music of Azerbaijan and Georgia. So that became I listened to so much music, and I did as much research as I possibly could, listening to, understanding the different instrumentations, the different scales and modes that music works in. Sometimes your job is not necessarily, it's tricky. In musical theatre, you also want to have a voice of your own, but sometimes for other theatre work, for plays and things like that, you might not want your own voice to be as present as the voice that you're trying to parody or pastiche. If you want your music to sound like Baroque harpsichord music, you might not want them to know that it's actually you. You might want them to believe that it's actually authentic harpsichord Baroque music. So I think listening absolutely loads to, and doing lots of research, I think, and maybe not self-censoring, maybe just sort of going for it, putting something down and not judging it at the moment that you're writing it. I think it can be really tempting to come up with something and then almost instantly be like, well, that's awful. Or, you know, you listen to it the next morning and you're like, what was I thinking? I thought it was good. But I think maybe persevere. Sometimes the seeds of ideas that don't seem that promising can be the thing that ends up absolutely flourishing and blooming as part of your work. So I hope that's a helpful answer. Owen Thomas, you literally have my dream job. What tips would you give to someone like me looking to become a West End MD composer for getting into the industry and gaining valuable experience? Okay, no, that's great. Well, yeah, I hear you. I'm very lucky, and I wish you all the best in a similar path. I think being really brilliant on your instrument. So I don't know if you're a pianist, or, you know, you don't have to necessarily be a pianist to be an MD, but for sort of West End musicals and things like that, it's very, very likely, unless you're going to be a conductor, that you're going to be a piano MD and conduct the show from the piano while playing the keys. So if that's the case, then I would say just absolutely really nailing your practice on that, being a really good instrumentalist. I think swatting up on sight reading skills is really, really brilliant. The number of situations where, particularly if you're working on new musicals, composers might throw rewrites at you really, really quickly. Suddenly you've got to teach something to a cast, it's been put down in front of you, you haven't got much time to unpick it, you've got nothing you can listen to, no oral guide as to how the music goes in a way that you would be able to with an existing score. So I think really working on your sight reading is a really, really brilliant way forward. And but in terms of getting into the industry, I guess there are different routes. My route was through this actor musician course at Bruford, but I know many people who do it through, there are MDing courses. I think Mountview, I think, might do a postgrad in musical direction. I'm not sort of, I don't know a huge amount about the course, but I know that there are other course avenues that you could apply, or people who go to music college and then find their way into it from that. I think contacting MDs and asking to do sit-ins in pits is a really great idea. Often people will be very willing to let you do a sit-in, and then that's a great way not only of starting conversations with people, but of getting experience of being in a pit and being in the context of a production. So I wish you all the very best. I hope that helps. Stella, have you sat in on any audition panels, and if so, what do you look for in a good musical theatre singer? I have been involved in the casting of quite a few productions, and I was heavily involved in the casting process for this 101 Dalmatians this year, which has been postponed to next summer. Yeah, what would be the tips? I think one tip would be, it's just a really awful note, but I think people's sincerity comes across really clearly in auditions. Like, you really, if you're well prepared, so you don't have to be worried and fearful about what you're doing, and you sorry, I've just seen a message from John Bromwich. Did you enjoy going to Azerbaijan? I'll come to that later. I absolutely loved going to Azerbaijan. Sorry. That being really sincere, being really authentic. So I think there can be a temptation or a tendency in theatre to think, oh, I need to sort of build a front for myself, a performer's front or something, that you're on show in a certain way. But I think that people can, in an audition, they can sort of feel your sincerity or your authenticity. And I think particularly in theatre at the moment, there's a lot of drive, I think, for authenticity, and whatever that means. And I think people want people who are sincere and I think when people sing from the heart, when I always think, like, when you hear performers do riffs in songs and you know that they've just listened to the recording and they've just echoed or mimicked what they heard the singer on the recording do. That's so much less interesting than when they come to it themselves and they decide to do it a different way and their way. And I think you can hear whether they're putting on someone else's voice and doing what they think is wanted by that material, or whether they're actually engaging with the material as themselves and finding their truth with it. And I think that's a really telling thing. I would say a really practical tip is to be really nice to the accompanist. I've seen some really unfortunate situations where the performer can be quite rude to the accompanist, and that never goes down well. Like, the directors will always be funny about that. And so I would say be well prepared. Get your music in a really good shape. That's another thing. If you turn up with like a little sketched thing on a piece of paper that's been in your back pocket on the bus, and it falls off the piano, that's no good for anyone. So I'd say be really, really prepared. Come with your music sellotaped or in a folder or in a really good format, and be authentic. Be true to yourself. And I think ultimately, when you feel good about an audition, it's not necessarily that you get the job, it's that you felt like you represented yourself to the best of your ability and you gave a sincere account of yourself. And I think that's when you feel good about an audition, because you have no control over whether you get the job or not. All you can control is whether you do yourself justice. So they would be my top tips. I hope that's helpful. Leon, what is the crossover between MT and straight acting? I know in the past MT has been seen as lesser to acting by the industry, which is not true. And I wondered if things are changing. Also, any crossover with opera, as that is something else I'm interested in. Well, no, that's another great question. Thank you, Leon. I think more and more there's the style of musical theatre. It's tricky, isn't it? You're right. There has been, or can be, a little bit of a stigma with this idea that musicals, the acting that's required in a musical, is less demanding or less authentic, less sincere, less truthful. I think that's probably come out of the fact that there are some absolutely fantastic long-running musicals where, because of the recasting process, when a new cast comes in, they are asked very much to fill the shoes and the moves and the staging of the previous cast. And so there can be a little bit of a temptation that in those processes, actors are being asked to not bring themselves, again going back to that last question about authenticity, that you're actually being asked to do what the last person did in some way. And I think that over time that can become a bit of a photocopy of a photocopy, and runs the risk of people feeling like it's not got its beating heart anymore. But I think that's only one. I don't think that's a fair description at all of the industry at large. I totally with you. You say it's not true. I totally agree. And I think that probably the way musicals have gone, with Sondheim, with Jason Robert Brown, with Adam Guttell, with so many sophisticated approaches to musical theatre, the level of detail and authenticity that's required in the acting has got more and more demanding. And I think as part of that, the requirements from a performer are all the more that they require no lesser integrity than to be a straight actor, in inverted commas. I think you're right that there can be again, the industry can be guilty of putting people in boxes and not wanting to consider that a straight actor could be a brilliant musical theatre performer, or that a musical theatre performer could be a great straight actor. So again, a bit like that first question about how do you work on multiple fronts, I think maybe the trick there is not to allow yourself to get too pigeonholed too quickly. If you did a musical and then the next thing you did was a Shakespeare, it's going to be much harder for people to put you in a box than if you do 10 years of one kind of theatre and then you want to move to another. So that would be one little tip. But in terms of opera, I must confess, I don't know a huge amount about it. Feels to me, speaking from the musical theatre world, that the opera world can feel quite separate. The circuit I work on is very much lots of musical theatre companies and productions, but my work very rarely. I've done some repetitouring for Opera North before, but really I haven't had a lot to do with that. So I suspect that it's a slightly different world, or slightly different mechanics of that industry again. I think I should stop waffling in answer to this question, but I think I would just, my short answer would be, I totally agree with you. I think the demands of integrity that are needed on MT actors now are no lesser, and therefore one should be approaching that with exactly the same level of detail as any other actor, and then for not permitting the industry to put you in a box. I think I hope that helps. Sorry, that felt like a very long-winded, waffly answer. Honor Cosgrove, hi there. I'm auditioning for drama school BA acting next year. Do you have any tips for the audition process? Yeah, okay, no, great. Well, every drama school, the thing I remember, and I suspect it's still similar, is that frustratingly, every drama school had a slightly different stipulation as to what they wanted from you. And it made it quite hard because you kind of don't want to learn 15 different monologues and 15 different sort of songs and everything else. So I think one thing I'd say is be really careful reading what it is that each individual drama school asks from you in terms of the audition process, so that you can just tailor what you prepare. And in an ideal world, I suppose it'd be great if you could find some things that you feel really comfortable, really strong about, and then sort of adapt those so that so for example, if the length of monologue is different from school to school, and one says they want 90 seconds and the other one wants 3 minutes, that you've got a 3-minute monologue that you could do half of or do the whole thing and they both work. That would be kind of great, and that would sort of really lessen your workload as well. I think generally sometimes the drama school will stipulate what they want you to learn, and they might say, here's a list of monologues, pick from this list. I mean, generally I tend to find that if you choose something that you really like, that you really relate to, that you really enjoy or speaks to you or is a good fit for you in terms of your sort of character casting, that it will work better than if you try too close to the time, especially to do something that's very far away from you because it's the demand that's being asked by a drama school. And I know that from my own audition experience as well, but when I've suddenly been asked to sing I Will Survive Tomorrow for an audition, which happened to me when I was still doing acting, musician, performance work, that actually my attempts to learn a new song that wasn't in my repertoire the night before was so much less effective than if I'd just gone in with something that I was really confident about. And I think sometimes this might relate more to the industry than drama school, but sometimes you can see that it says we want there might be a stipulation in the requirement, like we want a song that was written, a British song from the last 10 years, and you've got a British musical theatre song that's 15 years old, that you might be better off just doing that than learning something new because you're really, really worried about the fact that it's slightly outside the catchment. I think generally those are guidelines so that you don't come in singing something that was, an American song from 60 years ago, but actually, so I think be clever with choosing material that you feel, and that's just as applicable, I think, for speeches and monologues. And again, just same things as probably professional auditioning. Be really confident, be really prepared, be yourself, be authentic. Don't try and second guess what they want from you. You go in and offer them what you are, and hopefully they'll see how brilliant that is. So I hope that helps. I wish you all the very best. Good luck with it. Gracie, hello. How did you find your training differed from university to drama school? Do you think one benefited your career more than the other? That's a great question. Yeah, I suppose drama school felt really vocational. Everyone who was at drama school with me knew what they wanted to do, which was to perform or be in the industry. When I was at university studying music, there were lots of people, myself included, who were there because they loved music and they wanted to study music and know more about it. But we didn't really know at that point how we wanted to apply that training to a career. So that was a huge difference, was that I felt the academic training at university was sort of broad and didn't really tailor us to any particular route, and maybe left more doors open, but also could leave you at the end of it feeling a little bit lost, because you might go, well, I've got this qualification, but I don't really know what doors that opens for me or what I can apply that to. Whereas going to drama school, you were being channeled towards a couple of smaller doors, which meant it was much, much harder to get through them in terms of an entrance to the industry. And obviously then if you don't manage to do that straight off, you're then sort of having to ask yourself how you want to apply yourself, whether you want to do other work in the meantime and you're going to keep auditioning or anything else. But I think the main difference for me was that one felt sort of learning for the broader sense of learning, and the other one felt incredibly vocational, like it was directing me towards a particular industry. In that sense, I suppose the second one was more tailored to the work that I do. But in a way, I suppose I have a slight feeling that everything you do, everything you participate in, and every bit of study and learning you do, and every experience you have can feed into who you are and what you offer the arts, because obviously it's who you are and all your experiences that will make you the individual performer that you are. So in that sense, I would never take away the experience I had at York doing music. It's probably filtered into my work hugely as well. But yeah, academic versus vocational is the main thing I would think. I hope that helps. Morven Cameron, what has it been like working with young people at BYMT? Well, absolutely fantastic is the answer. I'm missing it so much. I can't tell you. When I was doing a bit of thinking through before this morning, I watched on YouTube some of the footage of productions we'd done in the past, including some of the Salsa Sisters, the first show that I wrote for BYMT back in 2012. And it made me really tearful. It made me really nostalgic, because the pleasure of working with young people to learn off you guys, as well as hopefully you learning from me, and to make music together. And I love the speed at which everyone works, that you can write a new song in the morning, teach it in the afternoon, and be choreographing it by tea time and performing it that night, sort of thing. And that speed at which everyone works, I've never known anything like it, and I miss that a huge amount. So it's been absolutely incredible, and I can't wait to get back to it. I hope we can all return to make live music together very, very soon. How am I doing for time? It's getting, okay, I've got about 5 minutes left, so I'll try and get through the next few. Constance, hopefully going to do a music degree next year. Brilliant, great stuff. I compose at the piano but can't sight read or accompany people, though I can read music very well. You talked about this a bit, but how can you break into the industry as an MD conductor without strong piano skills? What can you suggest doing to improve piano skills, specifically to become an MD or work as a composer in the MT industry, please? Yeah, okay, no, there's some great points there. If you want to MD but not be a pianist, I suppose that takes you away from quite a lot of traditionally set up pit band work. A lot of, because of funding as well, and depending on how commercial the production is, a lot of the conducting of shows will be a piano conductor and played from the keys. So it is a really brilliant way in. The MDs who I know who don't play keys tend to not do conventional musical theatre stuff, but maybe work more with practitioners who are theatre makers, who bring musical instruments, and maybe they work on music together live, they generate the music together, you know, a bit more like Knee High or those kind of companies, although they have also brilliant piano MDs as well. But there are other companies that maybe have a slightly more hands-on approach to music making and don't require that sort of level of traditional piano skill. In terms of developing piano skills or sight reading skills, I guess the honest answer is there is just that the application of yourself. So practicing every day. If sight reading is really tricky, just starting with quite simple activities, and then gradually extending that difficulty level. So rather than going, oh, it's not something that I'm capable of, because it can be quite daunting. I totally hear you. Maybe just reduce the level of difficulty of what you're trying to sight read, build it up very slowly, and then gain confidence that way, and then try and develop those skills that way. I think you're right. But you mentioned as well about you haven't maybe done a lot of accompanying experience. When I was at university, I was kind of gutted, because I wanted to be getting all the piano concerti and doing all the solo piano stuff, and I didn't get any of those opportunities. There were some other absolutely fantastic pianists in my year who got all of those opportunities, and I was always asked to accompany the opera singers and the singers on the course. And at the time, I was really frustrated, because it felt a rather unglamorous job to be sat at the back accompanying the singers who were always in the spotlight. And in hindsight, I think they were absolutely fantastic opportunities for me, much more useful for me as an MD than had I been given the opportunity to do all the flashy solo piano stuff that I had hoped to do with the orchestra at university. So I would say getting some opportunities to accompany singers is a really, really great way forward. And I know it might be a little bit hard at the moment with the climate we're in at the moment, but as soon as it's possible again, I reckon working with singers and accompanying other performers is a really great way forward. So I wish you all the very best with it. Let me see if I can just get through a couple more. I've got 2 more. Ellie, hi, I've been in the band for a couple of shows playing Reed 3, and I found it very hectic changing instruments and keys so many times, but great fun. What's it like leading the entire band? Well, you're absolutely right. It can be very hectic. Leading the band, I think it's I absolutely love it. It feels to me like a roller coaster. Like at the best of times, it feels like you're playing the emotional contour of the show. So my very first job, Sunset Boulevard, began with a gunshot. And the story of Norma Desmond, Hollywood star who eventually goes mad and loses her mind and commits murder. And it always felt like that gunshot was like a starting pistol. And then I would play the show, and you'd play the romance, and you'd play characters falling in love. You would play the main character sanity fragmenting, and it was almost like if you on a good night when you were really in it, it was like you were actually experiencing or going through all of those dramatic contours of the story. You were falling in love, you were losing your sanity. It was an amazing, at its best, I think it's an absolutely incredible experience to feel like you're leading the contour of that drama through leading the music. It does require a lot of peripheral vision and being very aware, because you often have to be sometimes nodding into a camera or conducting into a camera that might be projecting you or transmitting you to a TV screen that might be hung at the back of the auditorium so that the performers on stage can watch you and follow the music and be led in and conducted. Simultaneously, you might be watching the band and trying to bring in certain or help certain components in the band, and you're also obviously often as a piano conductor playing the score as well in some way, so you have to be very aware, very open. Sometimes I've been on cans for and have the DSM, the stage managers, the deputy stage manager who's reading the book for the show and cueing all the lights and sound, also communicating with me. So you can feel, I always think I might feel like one of those breakfast TV presenters who are trying to talk to someone, but they've actually got someone talking in their ear at the same time. So I think you have to be very sort of working on lots of fronts at the same time, but it is absolutely incredible experience. So yes, I totally hear you, hectic, but hopefully the pleasure of it being in some way keeping up with all of the different demands that happen live. So keep going. I hope you continue to enjoy it as much as I have. Thanks for the question. And the last one, finally, how am I doing for time? Okay, it's 1 o'clock. Last question. What would you suggest to develop acting skills during quarantine? That's from Alice Rimmer. Fantastic. Thank you, Alice. That's an excellent question. So yeah, it can be really, really tricky. I mean, obviously, I would advocate I know it's no substitute for going and seeing live performance, but watching them, obviously, I'm sure you're aware there have been loads of great things being streamed online, and it's a great way of staying and seeing loads of things for free. So I would continue to advocate doing that. You're absolutely right. Acting's really hard, that it's an activity that it feels like it so often requires other people to do. If you're a painter, it feels like you could sit at home and paint. If you're a pianist, you could be practicing piano at home yourself. You don't need anyone. Acting can be really hard, because I suppose if you just stay at home and you like act into the mirror, you can just be a bit mad. But there are a number of really useful books out there. So there's a lot of voice training books. Cicely Berry and Patsy Rodenberg have written a huge number of books with exercises and activities in them that you can work through. That was some of the stuff I did in my year out, and that I was in a similar position of trying to develop my acting skills, but not really always being able to do that with other people. So I would say those kind of things, finding those activities that being really healthy as well. And that sounds a ridiculous thing, but when life returns to normal, and if you do end up doing further rehearsals or lessons or studying, you're going to need to be fighting fit. So the demands of it, can always, on energy levels and everything like that, can always be immense. So I would say anything that keeps you fit and well. So exercising, doing yoga, or whatever else it is that you like. Keep a lot of drama schools. The work you do in the first year or foundation year at a drama school will just be about freeing up the body and doing movement work and exercise and yoga and things like that free up the body. So anything you can do with that. I would say you could always try and set yourself some targets for example, acting through song work. You could try and expand your repertoire a little bit, and it's very easy. There's a website I know that I can't remember. I could put it in. I might find it and try and put it in a link. But it's British New Musicals website, and they've got lots and lots of material you can download there. So maybe, and there'll be others. You could find new material in the form of sheet music or backing tracks, and you could maybe set yourself the challenge to expand your repertoire and explore your acting through song components. So it is hard. I totally hear you, but hopefully I'd say staying sane and well, and maybe try and get hold of some books that could give you sort of voice exercises you could be doing, or I would be watching loads, listening to lots, listening very widely, and I would suggest yeah, all of those things. I hope that's helpful. I think that's probably out of time. It's been a huge pleasure to chat to you all today. I hope somewhere amongst that waffle there's been something of interest. It's been thank you for joining me singing at the start of the session, and hopefully I'll get to see some of you in real life soon on a BYMT project. And in the meantime, keep smiling, keep applying yourselves, keep hanging on in there, and I look forward to meeting and seeing you all soon. Thank you so much, and I will ring off now. All the very best. Take care. Cheers, everyone. Thanks a lot.